Hello YouTube friends, Dr. Teresa here. Recently I reported that I reacquired some dwarf seahorses from somebody who previously adopted them from me and wasn't able to keep them anymore. You can see some of them here. They're doing very well back in my aquarium. But about a week later, the same person, as he was breaking down his tank, discovered that there were more. So I did go and pick those up, but it did turn into a little bit of a story. So he had about 10 that he had bagged up for me. As he broke down the tank, he found them. But there is one little problem with one of them. When you look carefully here, you'll see one of them is floating, and it's a little bit difficult to see, but he has a lot of air trapped in his pouch. So I wanted to take care of this guy in hopes that I could save him. And I started by letting the bag of water sit next to the aquarium for about 20 minutes so the temperature would acclimate a little bit. And then I poured the water into a pitcher because eventually I'm going to start adding some tank water to help acclimate them. You can see there the seahorses, and there is some macroalgae that they're holding onto. So I've started adding some tank water to help with the acclimation, and here you can see a little bit better the guy who's floating. He can't even grab onto anything. He's just hanging onto the surface, the poor guy. So I'm going to give him some relief. I am going to perform a pouch evacuation. You can see there all the air trapped in his belly. So I took some tank water. I'm pouring it into a clean, flat vessel. And I'm going to put the seahorse inside of there. And here you can see his belly. Look at that. It is full of air. So I have to position him. He's a little nervous, as would be expected. And I take the blunt end of a bobby pin, and I have to reposition him a couple of times. But the goal is not to get the bobby pin in the pouch. It is to help him relax the opening while I massage with my fingers. And I don't know if you've noticed, he stopped squirming. Now take a look at this area with the circle here. You're going to see bubbles start coming out. His pouch is starting to relax. That opening up, there we go. There's some bubbles coming out. So I continue just massaging gently the pouch, and he's very relaxed right now. He realizes I'm giving him some relief. I'm getting a lot of that air out. The belly is definitely going down. Try to see if I can get a little bit more out here. Yep. Definitely getting more out. You can see the belly is much smaller, but when I look, it still looks like there might be a little bit air in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just try a couple more massages to see if I can get it out. And it looks like that's just about all there is. So he's gone through a procedure. He's a little bit in shock, but I noticed that his thorax is also a bit swollen. So I put him back in with his friends, and he is still just floating, but look how much smaller that belly is. But there's definitely some air in his body as well, which tells me some sort of infection is going on. So when the time comes, I add more water to help with the acclimation process for all of them. And after that, and letting the water sit for a little bit, you can see that the male I just worked on, I'm going to call him Lucky because in the end it turns out he is lucky. He was hitching, which is a great sign because he was not hitching the entire ride home, nor before I performed the procedure. So that is a really great sign. So this is his first day, as I indicated with day 1. And look, here he is. He's holding on to that macroalgae on his own. So at this point, I already have a lot of hope for him. He just needs some time to heal. Now, because I just added seahorses from another tank into my own tank, I did a water change, and I'm just moving things back into position after the water change. You can see that Lucky, he's floating up at the top there. Other seahorses are hanging on to him. Okay, and here he is. He's really struggling. So this first day, he really wants to take advantage of the fact that he doesn't have a lot of air in his pouch, but he's just not successful by himself. So I do end up holding him and helping him hitch. So he is hitched on, which is a great start for the end of his first day with me. And by the end of the first day, he also started eating, and he's doing pretty well with his eating now. In addition to supporting him with moving him to a hitching post, I'm also continuing my treatment with the dewormer for bendazole. It was something that I was continuing from the other seahorses, but now that I've added more, I wanted to add that. And I've also added some Paragard for the infection. So here we are going on to day 2, and you'll notice that he's much more agile, and he's really determined that he's going to take control. Look at how he is vertical here, which is a huge, huge improvement. And this is day 2. And look at, he knows he wants to hitch, and so he's working his way. After several minutes, I did cut out some footage, but watch this scene here. This is so endearing. Look at, he gets himself down there, and he is able to hitch himself with his tail. That is so incredible. That is huge, because this is obviously something he had not been able to do for a long time. He's definitely not cured, but look, he's eating. So I've got a couple shots of him getting morsels of food. It's a struggle for him, you can tell. He has to balance himself just right so he can hold on and still get the food, but he is able to do that. And from my experience, when you have situations like this, if you could get the animals to eat, then you have a chance of successfully letting them heal. So let's look at what's happening in day 3 now. Here he is, he's hitched himself. I came home from work, and look, he's trying to reposition himself now, and he is having a little bit of a struggle. He's having to make a couple of tries to do it. But apparently he just wants to get a little bit lower on the hitching post. He's having a little trouble. And after a few tries, here he goes. And there it is. He's not much lower, but he is definitely lower. Now, he still has the urge to release sometimes, and he ends up floating on day 3. But he's able to get right back to the hitching post, and he knows just what to do, and he's able to hitch right away. Look at that. Look how skilled he's become. And here he is. He's hitched in another location later on. And you'll see he's still having trouble. He has to adjust himself. He doesn't quite have his full mastery of his ability to move yet, but he's learning to cope with it. Gets himself in position, because he is obviously hungry, and he's trying to get himself some food. And here we go. He's got himself positioned. And he's ready to start capturing some food. Now here we are on day 4. It's amazing, the transformation. Notice his thorax is much thinner, and he is at the bottom of the tank. Still has buoyancy problems, but he is scavenging for copepods at the bottom of the tank. That is amazing. In fact, when I came home from work on day 4, I had trouble finding him until I saw him doing this. So he's doing a fantastic job. I'm really proud of him, and I have every reason to believe he's going to have a full recovery. Thanks so much for following along with this extremely long video. I really appreciate having you with me, and if you have any questions or suggestions for videos, I would love to hear about them. Thanks again for watching, and take care.